dash her money, Shawty said she go roll am for me. If I go dash her money,
now you're saying, baby girl, I want.
You didn't see that one coming, did you?
Things what you do, I want Chris. Now me and you, everything I want. Every duty, make a nigga want pay. If not Chris, baby girl, I want Chris. If not there, baby girl, I want there. By your side, baby girl, I want there. Oh yeah, choke. Can you find I can't take every second, feel like by me. We go play, you go shake on what the night you do, and you know say no one like me. You go take, I go pay, you go pay on what the night you tell me I be class me. I know the wrong times when we go play, I go use you every day.
Somebody call me Bado. He coming through. He coming. Give me some ginger. Give me some ginger. Here we go. We number one in the game. No competition. Same. Okay. Okay.
Don't need a shower, baby. I need a free. Lick it like ice cream. It's nothing. Chop my banana. One side I love it.
Sing it. Somebody watch out, watch the switch. Watch the switch. Watch out.
Welcome, welcome, Babes Wind. Welcome. Hit the like button as you're coming in. You're listening to Alternate Sounds. Hit the like button as you're coming in. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome, guys. We have another live show, guys. We're not going to be here for long, but this is a very, very important lesson. Important live stream, actually. Hit the like button. Help me bring everybody else into the room, guys. We're talking about Jim Iyke. He's talking about single mothers. Let's talk. 1 second. Just trying to get my pieces together here, guys. Alright, it's time to get the show started. Hold on 1 second, guys. Welcome. Hit the like button. Hit the like button, guys. Thanks for being here. If you're here right now, I really, really appreciate you. You're the reason why the platform is not dead. But we got to get the business back in order. Hit the like button. My name is Ola, coming to you live from my Empire Pro Studios. Shout out to Marriott. Marriott is here. Epsiba is here. Natu is here. Brave Wins is here. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you guys. I appreciate you for always supporting the platform no matter what is going on. We have about 6,000. Actually, we just clocked 6,600 subscribers. So something is definitely going on with the platform. We have to be consistent. If we're not consistent, yeah, all these platforms can go dead easily because there's so much content being pushed out into the marketplace. So we have to stay on top of things. Apologies for some recent events that hasn't allowed me to be consistent, but I'm gonna keep showing up. I promise I'll keep showing up. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. Today we're bringing Jim Iyke, Nollywood actor Jim Iyke. We're bringing him to the stage, to the pulpit. He's going to I guess share some things with us. I wonder if you think it's unfair. You know, Jim Iyke has been making the news since yesterday. So hold on one second, guys. Sorry, excuse me. All right, I'm okay. Just a little runny nose. Thank you. Congratulations. I know, right? Congratulations. Yes, we should still congratulate ourselves, right? The 600 subscribers, but you know, there's so much content being pushed out, so we just use that to indicate. The numbers tells us that somebody who once upon a time thought that, okay, I need to keep listening to this platform, to this guy, and they click subscribe. It doesn't necessarily mean that they keep coming back, okay? Because what really indicates people coming back is their engagement with the platform over a period of time. So if you don't watch 3 or more videos back to back subscribing, it's a good indicator. It tells me that we're doing something good, you know, but it doesn't tell us who keeps coming back. Okay, Mara says maybe we need an Anti-B MOP crossover. We might, you know, we'll work something out. You know, Anti-B is always supportive, of course. But yeah, you know, as you can see, we try to collaborate as much as we can, but you know, everybody's schedule is also very tight because it takes a lot to keep coming back here from time to time. It takes a whole lot. All right, so nonetheless, but we've been putting a lot of energy. Like I have 2 videos to edit right now for Lola and Ola, so we're putting a lot of energy on that, particularly the Facebook page. Okay, so the YouTube not so much, but the Facebook page. If you go look at the Facebook page, Lola and Ola, you see a lot of activities over there. So it's just a lot going on. But like I said, we'll keep showing up. Again, my name is Ola, coming to you live. You can download our free books. What we do is here we extract life and relationship lessons from trendy topics. So if you really like, if I say anything that makes sense, you get any kind of value here at any point in time, hit like, share, and subscribe. And you can also download the books for free when you do join the boot camp. The boot camp is only $97. It's 21 days boot camp. It's virtual. You can start right now, okay? But it's 21 days, okay? If you want to reboot your marriage in a healthy way, you want to build a brand new foundation, you want to build the right foundation, you're going through some kind of crisis and you feel like you need to do something, the boot camp is a great place to start from, okay? But that comes with 2 free books and it comes with a consultation, a free consultation. So it's only $97, okay? You just go to manofprestige.com and you can access all of it from there. So of course, the conversation that we're having here, we're having single mothers conversation. If you notice, it's been coming up. It's not all conversations about single mother that's necessarily negative. Anytime you see something keeps coming up, it's probably time that we pay attention. We need to pay attention to something, okay? Oftentimes we might be dismissive about it. You know what I'm saying? Because we also know that certain types of toxic people might engage the conversation from a shaming and blaming standpoint. So of course that feels like poison. Of course that makes you naturally feel like you need to dismiss it. But usually there's some level of truth, something that we need to pay attention to, okay? At the very minimum, before we dismiss it, we need to make sure we know what we're dismissing, right? And address it at least once and for all. Sometimes we have to revisit it, okay? because there's multiple angles to the same issues. All right. So with that being said, let's talk about this today. I'm going to play the video. There's a video that I'm going to play, and then I might also react to the TVC girls video because they spoke about this, but it went viral yesterday. And honestly, the single mother thing has been going viral for a while, and there's multiple angles to it. But while we're talking about it today, before we talk about why we're talking about, let me play the video, and then we'll take it from there. And then I want to get you guys' opinion as well. Let's go.
A woman can't raise a man. I know women in this place right now that I mean, you can't. You're not built for it.
Not too clear, but let's see.
I cannot raise a man properly. You need a man influence, a male influence. Go get your brother that is doing well, or your father, or even a man that you trust. There has to be a male presence in it. Because women are naturally built to nurture, to love. No, and then what you're going to raise is a very weak man. Okay, he's going to be everything like the man that left you. Okay. Because that's the concept of manhood. You understand? You need somebody that will discipline him, tell him no as often times as possible, put him in the grind. I'll give you again. I like to draw illustrations. I was at a beach in the south of France once, and my son. Before then, he's never seen me this way. You know that growing up bonding thing. Please, a woman can't raise a man.
All right, so we got that.
Women in this place right now.
He said a woman can't raise a man. Let me say it out loud so you can hear it.
You can't. You're not built for it.
He said you can't. You're not built for it. A single mother cannot raise a man properly. You need man influence. You need go get your brother
or your father.
Or father.
Or even
a man
you trust.
That you trust.
It has to be a male presence.
It has to be a male
because
presence.
Women are naturally built to nurture.
Because women are naturally built to nurture. Okay? Let me keep going.
To love. No? And then what you're going to
love.
Is a very weak man.
And what you're going to raise is a very weak man.
Everything like the man that left you. Okay. Because that's the concept of manhood, you understand? You need somebody that will discipline him, tell him no as often times as possible.
You need someone that will discipline him, telling him no as often as possible.
Put him in the grind.
And put in the grind.
Again, I like to draw illustrations.
Illustrations?
I was at a beach in the south of France once.
Okay.
And my son, before then, he's never seen me this way. You know that growing up bonding thing. Please.
All right, so that's the small clip that everybody had been talking about. Now, with that being said, let me see. There might be another video that I would like to pull up eventually. I'll get that ready. Let's see. BBC. All right, I'm gonna come to the chat. Let's talk about it, guys. Let me see. I'm gonna drop the link to just in case anybody wants to contribute. I'm gonna drop the link as well. Let's see. Let's go in. I forgot to drop the link and do all our needfuls. Okay. Let's get that done, guys. Guys, let me know what you think while I'm doing that. I want to hear your thoughts about this. There's multiple angles to it. There's definitely multiple angles to it. It's not just one easy answer, right? There's definitely multiple angles to this conversation. Because a single mother, you know, is also being created somehow, some way. They didn't just fall out of the skies, right? So it's very important that we talk about this kind of stuff. Hold on one second. Okay. Guys, so sorry. As you can see, I scheduled the show a little bit later, like not too long ago too. So the normal what do you call it, house rules, things that I set, I didn't set them just to make sure that we have a good life. I'm here. I'm not really in a rush, guys. What time is it? Okay, I'm not really in a rush, but we're gonna keep it concise as usual. I don't want to take more than an hour on any topic. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead. Let me close that now. Okay, we've done the house rule stuff. All right, good. Let me see what the chat is saying. Chinye, what happened to you, Chinye? Chinye, where have you been, lady? Good to see you, Chinye. Chinye says he's right about boys needing that male mentorship. I understand what he's saying, but where is the dad? That's the other angle, right? That's the other question. Where's the dad? You see, a lot of the problems that we face when it comes to this kind of things are they are vicious cycle in so many ways, right? So when there's no dad, there's absence of dads, and then before you know it, and then we have to tell single mothers to find a dad's presence or a male figure presence, and then usually they are coconut-head single mothers about this issue. Usually, I'm just being upfront with you, and then the cycle continues, and then the cycle repeats itself, and then the cycle continues. But for me, when it comes to relationship issues, when it comes to family issues, when it comes to just human issues in general, I generally just trust that things will organically work themselves out. Okay, at some point things will organically work themselves out, but it's not free. It will cost us a lot. It will cost somebody their lives. It will cost some people their lifetime, but overall, the human experience, things will self-correct. It might just take a couple of lifetimes. But for those of you that don't want to wait for a couple of lifetimes because you don't have a couple of lifetimes, that's why we're here to talk about this kind of things, So Mara replying, you say, yes, ma, but the people who have no men, it's not their choice now. It's starting to become a matter of choice. Okay, when we say things like marriage has no manual, do what works for you. When we say things like that, every talking point has a critical mass point that it hits, that it starts to become negative. Every solution we create a new problem. Again, this is just life. This is not a kumbaya place. This is not Nollywood movies where people live happily ever after and there's no more rest to the story. For the end, there's to be continued, and somebody's life. Yoruba people come manso. I hate to say it this way, but Yoruba people will say tayo niko babaje, teniko leda. How do they say something like that, right? I know it's crazy to think about it, but as we wake up today, me and you wake up, we're so privileged today. Somebody's life, they don't know where to find the food to eat today. I know. In fact, something just happened last night to someone right now, and their livelihood is taken away from them, and they are on paycheck to paycheck up to that point. They don't know where to. You know what I'm saying? That's what real life looks like. Real life is not the end. It's usually to be continued. Anyway, with that being said, what can we do, right? So good point, Marriott. Marriott says, why has your son never seen you that way? You were absent. Okay, so now we're talking about Jim Iyke, because he actually said something. He said he was in South France, right? And then they were on the beach, and it was the first time his son will see him that way. Right? But I think it's more so talking about overall, not just a one-time event. We'll get to that in a second. Chia says, absolutely, if their dad is not in their life and you have positive male figures around, connect them with the child. Yes, now we're starting to talk, okay, all right, things have happened. It's not your fault. Just because it's not your fault doesn't mean you don't go feed collect if you don't do something about it right now. The same thing I always say about victims. You could have been a victim, but now if you can still do something about changing the course, the direction of your life, why won't you want to do something about that, especially if children are involved, right? That's what we're talking about. Thank you guys, thank you. Let me see here, what else? Mara says, no one ever says a single parent can't raise a real woman. Actually, that is also true. A single dad cannot raise a daughter all by himself. That is also very, very true. But the reason why it is never said that way is probably, I'm guessing, I'm going to do some research. I think most single parent household is single moms. And that's why it's been highlighted so much, So, but I'll see if I can do some math about that, Chia says, if you don't have that available, do the best you can as a mom and still expose him to mentorship programs. Exactly. That's where we're getting at right now with this conversation. Like, it might not have been your fault. For the most part, at this point, for most part, the cases that I see is not their fault. Sometimes a man will literally walk out the door. Sorry, guy, hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we're getting this, guys. Thank you for hitting the like button. As soon as you started hitting the like button, I see that some people came in. Hit the like button as you guys are coming in. We're talking about single mothers because Jim Hikes had some things to say about it. Okay. So Chinya says, do the best you can as a mom. Yes, so you might have been a victim, but now that we've acknowledged that unfortunately you find yourself in a situation of being a victim of circumstances, what can we still do? Because the rest of our life is ahead of us, right? And particularly we're talking about our children. The rest of their lives is ahead of us, and there's so much we can do. Because at the end of the day, it's not about not having, it's about what you have. What can you do with what you have? It's about being resourceful. It's not about all the resources you don't have. It's about being resourceful. This is true in relationships. It's true in health. It's true in wealth. Okay? Because all of us, we have more than enough excuses, all valid excuses that we can give to stay in our funky situations. We all have more than enough. Okay, and it always feels offensive when somebody comes to tell you that your excuses, no matter how invalid or valid it is, they're not valid. It's always offensive. So if we know some things are always the way they are, what can we do to make sure we improve the quality of our life as we move forward? And that's what that's the prestige way, right? We try to do the best we can to create the best we can, to create the best life we can with the resources we have at our disposal. Okay? There are days I don't feel like showing up. Okay? My numbers on Man of Prestige, this channel right now, are super discouraging. I chose to show up. I decided I'm going to show up anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing that all of us have to do. Now, let me keep going. Shout out to Ngozi. I see you, Ngozi. Chinya says, I have boys and I know what he's talking about. Boys are tough. Okay. Thank you for that, Chinya. Very, very important. Boys are particularly tough for single mothers. Okay. They're particularly tough. If they're not tough, it's probably because there's a blind spot somewhere that might show up somewhere in the future. Probably. Okay, this has nothing to do with you raising them. Okay, he used the word raise, but it's more so about how to train boys to men. It's not about getting them to pass in school, because some of you ladies are doing fantastic jobs as single mothers when it comes to getting them to have good grades, when it gets to getting them all A's in school, being at the top of their class, being a part of every organization, right? Knowing how to treat ladies with respect. Some of you are really, really good at that. Some of you have done fantastic jobs at raising boys to become fine young adults. They're passing schools, they've made it through college, or some of you have done fantastic job when it comes to that. But this conversation is about boys to men. It's about boys to becoming competent men in society at an holistic level, not just performance in education, not just performance in one area of life. Okay, we're talking about well-rounded men. Okay, guys, hold on 1 second, guys. Just hold tight. All right, good. We should be good on that. So Ngozi said, Ngozi Obasi Lifestyle. Shout out to you. I'm seeing that name for the first time. She says, being a single mom or not should decide the real character of a woman or a mother. Did you mean should not? Or not should? Did you mean should not? Are you saying should not or should? Being a single mom or not? Okay, so this is another language that keeps coming up. Men tend to use this language to also manipulate women. They keep bringing up the word character. As long as you have good character, you will stay in your husband's house. I have news for you. Oh my God. I have news flash for you. Welcome to this part of life. In 2025, yeah, we need to start watering down that word character. Character is everything, I get it, but because it's used in such a subjective way, we have people using that word to manipulate each other on both sides. Especially men are using it to manipulate women. Say all you need is good character, and then you will stay in your husband's life, stay in your house, in your marriage for life. Do I need to remind you that you should take some time and go to the courthouse, divorce court, and go and talk to the people? Just interview them like, hey, what do you think? What caused the breakdown of your marriage? Is it because you don't have good character? Who do you think is going to admit to bad character at the courthouse? In terms of admitting to it, you're going to see people on both sides of the gender, okay? Or go to see any civil court if you're in America, okay? Just go there and ask them in custody court where they are fighting custody battles. Who do you think might admit to having bad characters? Your guess is as good as mine. Does it mean that they're all lying? No, I think there are people with good characters that are ending up in divorce. Okay, we know what the estimate is across the board. 50% of marriages are ending up in divorce. Okay? Which is why we're talking about parenting in single parent household. Remember, right? So, do you think all of these people just have bad character? They're just people with bad characters. Huh? Sometimes when people say you have bad character, it's because you don't have the character that will help continue to enable them in bad behavior. It is all character. What is characteristics and character exactly? And we know what they mean. They mean moral values. We know what is right and wrong, right? But when two people are involved in a romantic setting that has fallen apart, right? Yeah, it gets very dicey. You know, I was just listening to a story. Somebody said, hey, he used to take care of his kids, but as soon as he remarried another person entirely, he no longer wants to have the kids anymore. He no longer is available to come and pick up the kids every two weeks. And then she was asking, what should I do about it? What should that kind of person do about it? You know? Now, let's talk about the kids that will be affected by the disappointment. Some of those kids, the way they react to that disappointment will be different from kids to kids. Some of them will just say, I knew you didn't care anyway. Some of the other kids will pick up the phone and say, Daddy, I want to see you. And they don't take it against Daddy. Right? Some of the daddy's girl don't ever take it against the daddy because they like Daddy. The Daddy allows them to indulge. It's because it's not really around a lot. And you are the bad police, the bad cop in that equation. These things are much more complicated than good and bad. These things are much more complicated than right or wrong. When people say character, they are usually talking about their own idea of right and wrong, the way they were raised, their own moral compass. If they were raised in the Christian home, they might tell you, we don't want to do atari in this house because that's some diabolical stuff. Please do not bring Igba. They said, Igba, Calabash. Calabash is, right? These things are much more complicated. That's why I cannot help you without knowing I can give you an idea. I can give you some insights on these public platforms, but there's only so much I can help you if I don't know your personal stories. It's based on people's personal stories. The easy way out of to make ourselves feel better short term is to say people just have bad characters. That's the easy way out. It's laziness to say character for the most part. It's just lazy behavior. So to what Ngozi is saying, I get what she's saying, that hey, single mom or not, it's not about character, it's about competence. It's about boys to becoming competent men in society. There are many men that have multiple six-figure jobs sometimes, businesses sometimes, but they're not competent. They're only good for their bank account. They're terrible fathers. When they create offsprings, they're going to create people that are not good enough for our society. And the way every human being reacts to that are different from people to people. Okay? So we need to, this is a more of a holistic conversation. It's not, again, like I said, there are a lot of single mothers that are doing a good job. I'm not saying that just to patronize Una. I'm saying that so you can know that we might be having a different conversations oftentimes. A lot of time, what we're talking about is not going to get tested until when your child becomes an adult and have to interact with the rest of the world outside of just you, right? Sometimes you end up raising a boy who he doesn't want anything near his mother. He doesn't want a boyfriend near you. He doesn't want a fiance near you. The way he's going to react to that is not going to show up until later on, right? Why? Because he's always heard yes, 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 or maybe no, no, no. Maybe you've been cranky way too much around the boy and he didn't know how to react to that, right? But the main point is, it's not about the cranky or yes, yes, yes. It's the fact that they've only seen one angle of what they're seeing, right? They don't have a balance. See, life is about balance. You guys are very quick to tell me that all the time. It is me that tend to push against balance. I will tell you that, hey, it's a case by case by case. That's balance. That's what I usually tell you, right? But what I'm saying to that is, in life, right, there's always a yin and a yang, right? And being able to see that creates some level of balance throughout life. Sometimes we call it a dance, right? It gives every individual balanced, we call it balanced perspective. And that's what this conversation is about. Okay, shout out to Ngozi. I spent a little bit of time on your comment there. Okay, she meant should not. I see that. Yeah, should not. Yeah. Your child will know right from wrong. That's not the issue here. Most people, believe it or not, they know the difference between right and wrong. Even thieves. Even only. They know that what they're doing is wrong. But there's something deeper that's still going to make them do what is wrong. That's what we're talking about. Right? Let's just call a spade a spade. That's a person who is just wanting to call out what is right from wrong. Here on Man of Prestige, we take it a little bit deeper. Say deeper, daddy. Say deeper, daddy. Exactly. Right? You take it a little bit deeper. Because me and you, we already know what is right and wrong. That's what most people call character. You know, my child knows not to steal. They know not to shoplift because you did a fantastic job. Right? So does it mean that they won't do whatever we're talking about, even if in a co-parent household? That's the conversation we need to have. Because what I'm saying, what I've been saying for the past 36 minutes or so, 30 minutes or so, is not enough excuses to stay in a toxic relationship. Please do not misconstrue what we're talking about as your excuse to stay in a funky relationship. If your relationships are funky, you're probably going to do more damages on those children. So what are you saying then, Ola? See, again, I've pushed you into a corner. You want to make me say stay or leave. It is never binary. It is never as lazy as some kind of binary equation. Well, stay or leave. We need to know where you stand. That is lame. That's lame behavior. Because life is not that simple. It is never that simple, guys. All right, so let's see. Mario says, I hope he ended up by that interview by telling men to be physically present parents. Most single moms are maxed out. Yes. So, That's the most. See, even men, I tell men all the time. I will tell men, I say, hey, you too, you deserve soft life, right? Men that tend to think that I'm just pandering to women because they're never patient enough to listen to the full story. But I said, you too, you deserve soft life. You are carrying too much weight. You are over carrying the weight you don't need to carry. The same thing is true for single mothers. In fact, what I'm asking here is that you might need to take some of that load down, put them down. You see, in life, it's about leverage. The people that win in life, it's not because they're doing everything, though. I don't know if have you taken notice that the people that win in life, it's not because they are aggressively doing everything, though. It's because they are strategic. Listen, me too. Like everybody else, I get tempted to just throw all kind of mods at the wall, just doing everything and hoping that something one day will stick and we will win. I get tempted. But every time I've won in any aspect of my life where I've won big time, is because I understand leverage. What do I mean by leverage? I understand where my strength is. I find out where my strength is. Okay? And my weaknesses is either I don't worry about it or I outsource it. I give it to other people to worry about it. Right? And if it's something as important as parenting, I say, sometimes it's just as simple as it's something that sometimes you leverage it as an opportunity to go out on a date. It's strategic as opposed to aggressively, or you want to prove a point. Gidigba, gidigba, gidigba. And you know what Yoruba people say? Gidigba oshila kufu oli. My wife said that all the time. She will now end it and say, it's only if you have the keys. You need to have the keys. If you don't have the keys, you just run it. You go back and say, I go back fast, saying, and then you run against the wall. You will just hurt yourself. See these doors around here in my area for climate reasons and different standard reasons here. These doors, if you run into these walls, they won't open unless you are trained to open doors like that. You need to have the keys. You can even bring sledgehammers and be slamming it. You just, for the first time, you realize that your door is not just wood. I don't know if you've seen that before. You need to have keys, strategy. That's what we're talking about. It's not about the circumstances that brought you here. What we tend to do is we overreact. We get defensive about our present circumstances. The moment somebody says single mother, you get triggered. It is not your fault. It's natural. We all do it. If you say something that hits my nerve in the wrong place, to me too, I will get triggered. Right? All of us do it. Right? But the winners in this life, if they get triggered, they look at it and say, what happened? They make sure that this is not some real stuff, right? And they get strategic. They come up with a strategy to navigate. Sometimes to navigate around it. Sometimes to kill the thing. Sometimes it's not worth it. Just ignore it. But you need to know what you're doing, because if you're going to swim against the trend, as I've always said, right? You want to make sure you know what you're doing. Okay? So if you're being maxed out in your life, it doesn't matter if we're talking about single mothers or men, or because men too, we say with all these bills I'm paying, I'm exhausted. I've been there. Occasionally, I still max myself out. I get burnt out. Usually because you are doing something wrong. I promise you, it's usually because you are expending your energy in the wrong direction. Anyway, Mario, they are good. They're doing school runs, providing, protecting, working. It's not easy. Yes, nothing we say yes. By the way, navigating and doing the right thing is easier said than done too. But the idea is eventually, that's the objective. The idea is eventually you have enough so that you can actually live and stop just, I know it's tough, it's difficult, but we're going to get through this together. Chi said, complete BS coming from those men. Right, the character stuff, right? Yeah, yes, so tell up Corinda. Let me see. Mara says, I remember a talk radio show in Nigeria. The man called in and said his girlfriend came to his house and didn't clean, so she has no character. Yeah, a lot of that. Mara says, I have no character. A lot of these are all excuses. I'm not going to invalidate the excuses, but again, there's a good chance you're doing something wrong. It could be as simple as, why are you with a girl that doesn't want to clean? Why? Just make it as simple. Why? Like, why are you making that about character? Because honestly, that thing you're considering right and wrong might not be right and wrong for other people. It's subjective. It's just a matter of your personal preference, right? Yeah. So that's what I mean. Ngozi said, yes, they mean moral values. Yeah, moral values, most of all know what's right and wrong. It has nothing to do with skills. When it comes to marriage, relationships, parenting, your career, business, these are the things that I coach on. Okay, it's about your skill set. It's about competence. It's about, do you know what you're doing? You know what we tend to do when it comes to personal relationship parts of it. When it comes to business and career, that one I don't need to, for the most part, I don't need to teach you, except now that everybody's life and their livelihood is collapsing. Even federal jobs, people are losing their federal jobs now. So people are they're calling on coaches to help them with resumes and stuff like that. They generally people know they can use a coach. But when it comes to personal relationship, when it comes to marriage, relationship, parenting, people just use common sense. Just because they can knock, they think they know what it takes. Okay, that's how people think about it. You know, they think about that all the way to divorce court, all the way to losing everything. And that's what we're dealing with. That's why 6-7 years ago, my wife and I decided, about 7 years ago, we decided to create these platforms. That's why, because we realized it's something that we would have loved to have, and there's a lot of mistakes we could have avoided if we had it. Okay, but till today, we still have a lot of people with coconut heads because they're using common sense. Common sense is, this is my left, this is my right. Do not steal, do not cheat, do not lie. What are most people obsessed with when it comes to personal relationship, marriage? They're obsessed with cheating. They're obsessed with cheater. Why do you say cheating like this? If I change this title now to cheating, this place will scatter. Right? Because they're thinking moral standards. They're thinking, you know the right thing. You know they are just pretending. They know the right thing. They are just pretending. They are the victims, and everybody else is the villains. Yeah. As adults, we need to do better for real. Yeah, saying character is a cop out. Yep, write that down. Take that to the bank. Chie said, Ola, the funny thing is that there are a lot of married single mothers when raising the children. Even the boys is mostly on him. The father is not involved at all. Yes, that's the other angle we need to talk about. So this topic is not just, well, it is, for me here on this platform, it's never about shaming single mothers. Most people having the conversation, with the exception of Jim Iyke, I think he's coming from a good place. Most people having the conversation, most people engaged in this that are getting triggered by this conversation are just resentful people that got dumped by their wives. So any angle they can use to shame a single mother, they will take it. Okay, but we need to take it a little bit deeper than that, as I've been saying, right? Because again, reality is that this topic is not an excuse to stay in a toxic relationship. Okay, it's particularly for those, probably more so for those that are already single mothers, right, that want to make sure they do the right thing as they move into the future, for their own personal love life, but also for the health of those kids as they go from boys to men. We're kind of highlighting boys today, but it's really about our children in general. It's about a male figure in a household or in a child's life, because you might not have the luxury of a household again, right? But in a child's life, because the reality is that in our society, they need to see what that looks like. It's not just what you say to them. It's not just the theoretical stuff you teach to them. It's about, as a matter of fact, I would argue that it's mostly about what they see, the examples that they see. So as you can see here, Jim Iyke is saying you're going to end up raising weak boys. A lot of people already seen that. Sometimes they tell you you're raising feminized boys. Like, for example, in the other discussions I had today, a young man actually said, hey, listen, because the lady came up and she started saying that, no, actually she's married, but she's trying to make a case off of the talking points she's heard on the internet for so long. He said, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter that we raise boys with good characters. If he's a single man, it shouldn't matter. Well, you're right. It shouldn't. But shouldn't is another word for fantasies. What is the reality? Does it matter? That's what we're trying to get at. Does it matter is what we're trying to get at. And we're not just going to use our feelings to answer that question. We need to have some facts, not so that you can suddenly become shamed. No, it's so you can know what you have, so that you can know what the odds are against you, right? Because all of us have certain odds against us. We just learn how to navigate them. Say, this side though, I need a little bit of help. Let me leverage this. This side, I got this. On this side, I am a 7. So it's very easy for me to push towards a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. On this side, I'm a 3. I need to push it to 4 or 5. Pushing it to 4, I can probably push only to, push to 4 or 5. I need to push this to a 7. How do I push it to a 7? By having a male figure that they see from time to time that could be a mentor, right? You can push that to a 7. If you try to do it as a woman, as a typical woman, you can only go as far as 3 points. So you push it from 2 to 3 or 4 or 5, and then your son end up in a society where they need a 7, 8 or 9. See, you did your best. And the worst part about all of this is that you might not see the impact of it until when they become 35 years old, 36 years old, 40 years old, right? These are things that don't necessarily show up until people have fully developed their brain. And that's not 18 years old, obviously. That's long beyond 18 years old, after they've been tested with life. That's what we're talking about. All right. Seek help. Yes. The choices are hard. Leave and fear that the dad won't be involved, or stay and damage your children. Being a human being is hard. If it comes down to safety first. I'm not talking about just physical safety. When it comes down to safety, even including emotional safety first. I think we talked about that yesterday a little bit, right? Safety first, right? Once you make sure you're safe, like I said, you just have to be a resourceful person, okay? You just have to be a resourceful person to find out what your leverage points are, and then you leverage them to create the results you're looking for. English, but these are the ways I can express it, okay? Unless we get down to your story, your personal story, and then maybe we can help unpack a little bit more. When I say leverage, I'm saying you as a woman, you have certain leverage that I don't have as a man. In our society, there's double standards on both sides. Okay? There's double standards that me now, if I get into a very weak feminine place, I will end up on the internet and start complaining and say, what about women? What aboutism? What about women? This, when you say what about, that's a very weak place. That's a person that's not living in their essence. The same thing is true for you, ladies. If you like, but men get to do this, it's because you are disengaged from your power. If you're engaged with your power as a woman, you will never have to say that ever again. You will see that every time you say that, you're shooting yourself on the legs. What about men that do this? What about, because you're comparing yourself to men. What's good for the good is good for the gander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you say things like that, you don't understand your power. That's what that means. The common sense is the one that makes you say, well, if men can do it, women can do it 2,000 times better. Okay, why? Well, let's say you can even do it. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to spend all your energy trying to prove a point in this very, very short life? Why would you want to do that? You have any logical reasons why you think you should prove a point? Like if something is clearly a place of weakness, why would you want to prove a point? Reality is that in life, no fingers are equal. It was designed exactly that way. Okay? It was designed to be exactly like that for holistic productivity. It was designed to be like that. multi-purpose for different reasons. Because again, this equality thing we're trying to play, we have to be careful. I do think that everybody should feel equal in terms of opportunities. I do think that. But when you really start to dig through this, if you go back into history, if you look at it into the future, spending all your energy on that you could have gone so far. Okay, gone so far. Being a human being is hard. Yeah, adulting is hard, but once you figure it out, it gets easier and easier, right? Stop paying all the bills. Well, even after you pay all the bills, leave that in, Jerry. Abby, welcome. Good to see you, Abby. Chie says it matters. We shouldn't get defensive with these things. But what will make the boys wholesome humans with whatever ways you can? Anytime you hear something that triggers you, it's easier said than done. Anytime something triggers you, okay, I want you to realize that, congratulations, you're a human being, okay? You got triggered. This thing is so bad that even when you tell people that you're triggered, they say, I'm not triggered. The fact that you say they're triggered triggers them. It's a mess. It's a complete mess. Everybody's just sensitive, right? Once you get triggered, it's a signal. Okay? What it means is a signal. Okay? Now, there's all types of signals. You need to group them into signals and noise. Some things are just noise. Okay? But sometimes some things are signals, but you just discard them as noise. Be careful. Very careful. That's all I'm saying. Welcome, Black Diamond. I see you now. I like this, guys. You guys are... Let me see here. Okay. Chia said, I'm not going to lie. Me too, sis. But I was open to hear what he had to say. And once I let him complete his sentences, I saw where he's coming from. I agreed with him. These things are triggering for a real reason. They're triggering for a real reason. I want us to start paying attention. Decide intentionally. You need to start grouping them into signal, noise. Signal, noise. You assess it. In order to be able to group it properly, you have to assess it first. Look at it. This person just said something. It triggered me. Let me make sure that it's a signal, that it's not a signal, that it's just noise. Most at times, it's noise. Okay? I'm telling you right now. Honestly, most of the times, they're noise. Okay? And what do we do oftentimes in this kind of topic? We start giving examples of people that were raised, that we can see on the surface that they were raised by single mothers, right? And they succeeded. One of the examples we will give is Barack Obama. Barack Obama was raised by a single mother. And it turned out all right, didn't he? Again, you just made it binary. It's either you turn out all right or turn out really badly. You turn out the president of the United States or you turn out the president of Nigeria. How did that work out? That's binary, right? What would you rather be? President of Nigeria? Or would you rather be president of the United States?
Let be poor. Breathe.
Is life really that easy? Is it? Barack Obama turned out all right. My child, as a single mother, I raised a child. He was hired by Joe Biden. He now works in Joe Biden's office in the White House. We tend to come up with it. In fact, I just saw one just now. Somebody said, let me see if I can find it again. The person said, but Akpabio was raised by a single mother. Not the Akpabio. Akpabio, lo. Hey, wala. Omo. Akpabio. You see, I'm not going to discount it. Only God knows what that person is looking at that made them look at Senate President Akpabio as a good example of why. Because it's almost like you're saying, well, let me just do my single mother in peace. Like, absolutely. Please do it. If it's working, please keep working. But for those that really want to make sure this is not just noise, that there's a signal here, that's why we're having the conversation. Again, it's about from boys to men. Do you realize that if we raise our boys to become real men, what do I mean by real men? Competent men, okay? competent men. Do you realize that those competent men have enough seeds to create competent women and children? It's a cycle, right? God, men, women, children, right? It's a cycle that feeds itself. It's not a matter of one is higher than the other. It's a matter of a complete cycle that's self-sustainable, that continue to feed itself. That's the way our society works. That's the way our social construct is being designed, right? Some people are like, no, we don't care about all of that. Let's change. That's the problem. We need to change all of that. Listen, if that's the mission you're on, congratulations. Please keep at it. Good luck. But the winners in the human experience are people that understand where their strength is and they leverage it. Okay? Those are the winners. Black Diamond, shout out to Black Diamond, says Nigeria, oh, no need to work, just cruise. Didn't Obama have an active grandpa? He did. But at that point in time, me and you now, Marriott, depends on who you're talking to. Well, we might just end up explain because no evidence. No evidence, because remember, you have to wait for a 60-year-old Obama to get the results. Some of us have foresight. We want to see it before it gets here. We want to actually do something about it now. And some other people will say, nah. Oh, nah. I mean, because when people have made up their mind, they've made up their mind. They're not listening to any. But for those of you that are listening, which is majority of you here right now, I want you to understand that any status you find yourself, I don't want to be quoting Bible. You are here for a reason. The blessings in the rest of your life is already present. It's all about how resourceful you are. Your circumstances are your circumstances. Your circumstance or circumstances becomes seed. But you have to know what you're doing. It doesn't. Everything else doesn't matter. Once you are able to acknowledge that, hey, I'm in this situation, it's just my circumstance, but I need to understand what my strengths are. I need to understand what the weaknesses are so we can fill those gaps. That's what it comes down to. That's what this is about, guys. All right, so of course people have a lot of opinions about this. I'm going to try to see if I can read some of the. I could tell that listen, when someone like Jim Iyke is starting to be outspoken about this, I could just tell that he's done some work, and some things he says might trigger the overwoke persons. Okay, it will trigger the overwoke persons, and it will take a very, very patient person, the person that open to learn. It doesn't mean it's all the way correct. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I could tell from some of the rhetoric coming out of him that he's definitely doing some studies. But people like that also, they don't need to know how to say all the right thing right now. It's just as long as you stay in the game, you continue to learn, you stay in continuing education, then you're going to be all right. That usually means you're open-minded, right? There's no end all be all concept. There's no man is an epitome of knowledge, they say, right? Just keeping an open mind. That's what winners do. Somebody said, I'm reading at some of the comments online right now. Okay, somebody said, I know a woman with 7 boys, and the dad died quite early. They all turned out good, extremely good. All right. Now the question is that, do you know if she had a male figure, an uncle, somebody, in or a grandfather in those boys' life? You don't know. Right now, if I were to make an assumption, right, should I assume she didn't or assume she did? I think it's probably better to assume she did. And then, since most of us have some kind of male figure, a mentor, somebody like that in our lives, I could just spend a couple of hours doing some homework and just make sure that gap is filled, right? Yeah. So there you have it. It's about what direction do you want to naturally make. Do you naturally make an assumption? Do you assume that this is all BS, or you know what, this is an angle that I might just want to make sure that we fill this gap? That's all. It doesn't make you any less of a competent single mother. One thing that single mothers also tend to do is overcompensating for what is lacking. When you're overcompensating for what is lacking, it sounds like love. But if you start to dig deeper, that's not necessarily a good thing, because none of us, especially men, need always a yes. Men especially need to get enough no's, because in real life, they will have to encounter no's. In fact, their real blessings, their success is inside of the more no's they collect. But you know, some people, they just like, I don't want my children to suffer the way I suffer. Even women that are inside of a married person, they are married inside of a husband house right now. Sometimes when the husband frown at the kids and say, hey, no, don't do that. You're like, I beg you, are too harsh on my child. I mean, you don't know a person like that? Hey, I beg you. Yeah. And intelligent, emotionally intelligent women will know to say, to leave some space. Let the man deal with the boy. Let them experience a little bit of no, at least back off sometimes. And when you at least aware enough to back off, take a step back, let the father deal with the child. If you come in later on, if you are aware enough to take a step back, when you come in later on, even if you still come and console the boy and if you do all that thing, nurturing all that nice stuff that mothers would do, at least you know that it's coming from a place of balance. And an emotionally intelligent man also will let you come in at some point and cuddle the boy. The key here is the balance. The key here is the balance. Yes, there might not be a male figure in the household anymore, but complete absence of male figure. You don't understand. Some people have done this to an extent where they will use those children to punish the husband. We know that already. I don't highlight that too much because that's not majority of the cases. Majority of the cases is just a bunch of incompetent people on both sides, on all sides. Okay. But we do have people that are vindictive, that will use their children to punish the man. Sometimes not just the man, they will use it to punish the next guy who is, as long as he's a man. Sometimes they just resent men. They call themselves baby feminists. No, they call themselves feminists. I call them baby feminists because those are not feminists. You have no idea what's going on social media. Some of you are just hard workers, you're good people, and you don't see how loud these conversations will get sometimes. Anyway, somebody said, I kind of agree. The stubbornness of a male child needs a male figure to match it. So the good news in all of this is that I'm seeing enough balance on people that agree and people that disagree. Okay. Somebody said bitter truth ever. Another person said it's a big lie. I have seen cases where the father left on his own and the children were raised perfectly. They always tend to qualify it with perfectly. By the way, nobody was raised perfectly. Newsflash, nobody was raised perfectly. Can we call a spade a spade? Nobody was raised perfectly. You know, when you want to prove a point so badly and your point just end up in a poto. May God help us. Perfectly. When you want to prove a point and you just are perfectly call perfection. Every time single mothers, why not single fathers shift, Joe? I get it. It looks like everybody's picking on single mothers. Okay. But probably because most of the single parent households are single mothers, right? There's a data that's being flung around. There are a couple of data I want to highlight, in fact, yeah, there are a couple of them. 3 times, they said 3 times more likely to struggle with poverty and behavioral issues are who? We're looking at United States, okay? I'm not looking at anybody else, anywhere else, okay? They said studies show that children from single parent households, they did not say single mothers. The only thing we know is that, in fact, let me ask Google, sorry, 1 second. What are the ratio of single mothers to single, so we don't guess, right? Fathers in single parent household. All right. Let's see what the ratio is. My guess is that it's more single mothers, so I don't want to guess anymore. Okay. All right. So we don't have to guess anymore. Current breakdown: single mothers versus single fathers. Again, remember, it's not about whose fault, because the truth is that some men are just useless and they're walking away from their children. That's it. That's the truth, right? But we're talking about the status, right? The actual status. Around 80% of single parent households are headed by mothers, with roughly 20% headed by fathers, according to world metrics. Okay, so this is across the board, not even just United States. Okay, and then they said in absolute terms, as of 2022, approximately 14.3 million children live in mother-only households. Around 3.5 million live in father-only households. That's the actual numbers. Okay. But again, I don't think 14.3 million is low, so that must have, it might just be United States. I can't see the numbers clearly here. Okay, it's United States. Statista estimates for 2023 align closely 15 to 3 million. Okay, single mothers. Okay, so the numbers are heavily skewed in the direction of single mothers. That's why it seems like people are picking on single mother. But the real thing we're saying here is the real conversation about single parent household versus a co-parenting, at the very minimum, a co-parenting situation where both parents are in the child's life. Sometimes that's just all you have. Remember, it's not about having everything. It's not about perfection. It's about knowing your resources and then making sure that you are resourceful about how you use your resources. And you're a terrible how do I say this in English? You're not a very resourceful person, obviously, if you're just dismissive and you don't even assess the situation, right? Okay, so they're saying studies show that nearly 1/3 of single parent families live below the poverty line. Because again, marriage, let's just go with marriage for this one, is a legal life hack. Okay, you have two people contributing into a household, not just financially, just in every sense. It's just a hack. It's just, that's something that one person would have to take care of, and it's no wonder why this max out, as Marriott puts it, right? So that's some numbers right there, just to make sure that we're speaking to some of the facts that we know available. So this person says it's a big lie. I've seen cases where the father left on his own and the children were raised perfectly. Another person in denial says lies from the pits of hell. My father wasn't around. Now this is personal. When you think it's personal, you would think that should be the end of the story. Why are we talking? If we have people who are personal, we cannot discount their story. This is their story, right? So we cannot discount their story, right? Hold on 1 second. Let me read the story before we get too far off. Okay, this person said, this person is a man, by the way, lies from the pit of hell. My father wasn't around. My father wasn't around, and I was raised single-handedly by my mother, who made me who I am today. She's a Christian. Religion has entered the chat. She's a Christian and taught me morals and values. She is cool-headed. Morals and values came back into the chat as to be expected. She's cool-headed, and I respect her for her impact in my life. Some families around us then, with both parents, call her often a time to advise their own children. Okay, so they call his mother, not her mother. They call his mother sometimes to get advice for their own children. I visited my father and communicated with my father, but he was not present with my life. We still communicate today. He's my father, and I respect that. I take care of him as I do to my mother too. For his personal reasons, he moved away from us, and we are good. She taught me independence and to always fight for what belongs to me. One event can't become a theory. That one woman failed to train her male child, right? Doesn't suggest that every other woman will do the same. Okay, so this man is actually the one that's guilty of using one event. He's basically saying one event. He's the one that's guilty of using one event. If you listen long enough to people like Jim Iyke, you notice that they're not speaking from one person's event. Again, we look at stats. You have to be careful when you're reading statistics, because people would also use statistics to manipulate people, right? So Your story is your story. Your story is the end all be all. But sometimes, right, oftentimes in real life, right, in our society, what we call civilization, we look at stats so that we can know what the odds are against us, so we can continue to win and continue to be the anecdotal type of stories, right? Your one-off winning stories, we want it to keep being that way. We want more of it. That's the point, right? How do you do that? We look at the averages. We look at why the average is so low as compared to your winning number. And then we push the average towards the winning number more and more. How do we do that? We're not going to do that by closing our eyes and pretend like some people are not failing because of some specific reasons. We're going to look at as much as we can. That's what we mean by educating yourself. Okay, so even the men that I push against here all the time, why do I push against them? Because they tend to just speak from their personal experiences, and it's actually worse for them. They will wrap it up in a stupid stats. They might say things like 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and so let's just hold these women accountable and say, no, wait, so they initiated the divorce doesn't mean that they caused the breakdown of the marriage, right? So that same angle, we can bring it in every topic: parenting, marriage. We look at stats, not to manipulate ourselves, but we look at the stats deeply. We do some deep dive into it to understand before we interpret it. We cannot interpret it with our personal experiences. If you interpret this stats with your personal experience, where I say 80 to 20 mother, if you're a single mother, you'll be like, big lie. Problems to pressure. Emeka, this person Emeka says, does a widow qualify as a single mom? Yes. Obviously, it's not her fault that she's a widow. You know, but usually too, a widow will probably not engage this with emotions because they can't relate with the shaming language, right? So, but they might take an offense. They might, if they've listened to this conversation long enough. So that's why I'm saying the idea here, what is the solution here though? Okay, you do the best you can. But I always say this, right? Awareness is half of the battle won. Okay, awareness is half the battle won. Okay, awareness. The pursuit of perfection depends on how you see it, because we're all pursuing perfection, right? But the obsession with perfection is a loser's game. The pursuit of perfection, I rock with that. Okay, so I'm pursuing perfection because it keeps me at the top of my game, right? Someone declare an absent dad epidemic. We could do that too, you know, we could do that too, right? But that would be a different conversation. Why are men absent, right? We could also do that. 1 hour don't reach. Oh yeah, we're ending this. Oh my god, thank you, Jerry. 1 hour don't reach. Let me see the top thingy here. 1 second. What is wrong with this about? Oh my god, I have to disconnect this. I have to find a way to disconnect this thing. Okay. Okay, let me look at this here. That one of the top comments here says, "Speak for yourself, Jim. My mom single-handedly raised me and my 3 brothers, and we are all responsible, proper men." I'm reading them also, if we can be fair. Okay, these are all the comments out there. I want you to take away from this what you want to take away from all of this. Another one says, let's see. Where is it? Where is this comment now? Okay, not this one. Let's see. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let's close this guy. We're rounding up, guys. We're rounding up. Thank you for the reminder. Let's see. I'm going to read a script to you that I'm going to find useful later on. I'm going to use it later on TikTok, but I'm going to read it to you. Actually, it's going to be my recording, and then we end with that. Okay. All right. So, some influencer guy, what's his name? I don't know. Daniel Rega, right? He said, this is what he said. Okay. This is posted on Instablog Nigeria. I said, but single fathers can raise proper ladies. This is not a smart statement regardless the context. Okay, so it is not very smart to to respond to something like this without having full context of what the discussion is about. But those are your influencers. It's okay. Let's just take a deep breath and drink water. Somebody said, even in two-parent Nigerian homes, the moms do most of the child raising. That's a good point to raise. We can talk about that maybe on a subsequent sequel to what we're talking about right now, right? Which I think that's what Marriott was just saying too, right? What about single mothers that are already single mothers, even in a married situation? That's a conversation, right? We can talk about that and discuss that even more. The father is often a mere father figure for outsider. Now, it is very important to have a father figure, regardless if you call it mere or not. Okay? That is a big thing. Remember, seeing the example is bigger than what you would say. A lot of things that people call absentee fathers too, it's just people whining and people not being resourceful about what they have. But again, like I said, that's a conversation for another day. Oftentimes, yes, they could do better. Sometimes it's just like some people will literally say, providing money for your family is bare minimum. No, that's terrible too. That's a terrible thing to say. Okay. If you don't believe me, go and talk to people that their father have never provided for them before. So many kids raised in two-parent homes were raised by married single moms. I've seen this enough. I think I might start pushing against it, because it's also a way to dismiss conversation. Okay, I've seen this enough. I might at some point start pushing against it, just to make sure that the most important part of the conversation lands. All right, let's call it a day, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a favor, help me hit like, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. But with that being said, I'm going to read this script loud to you and then we'll end the show. Shall we? So Jim Iyke sparked outrage recently with that comment, single moms can't raise real men. And yeah, the internet lit up. Now, this happened on JSpace platform on TikTok, and I just want to say something important. Not every conversation about single mothers is designed to shame single moms. Sometimes it's an opportunity to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And this is one of those cases. Here's the thing, nobody should stay in a marriage just because of the children. That's not healthy for you, and it's not healthy for them. But at the same time, we have to be honest. There are ideals. On that same stage, a lady who claimed to be married tried to defend single motherhood as equal to two-parent households. And when she was asked directly what's the ideal, she ended up saying, there really isn't one. That sounds nice. It sounds nice. It sounds cute. It's diplomatic. I also tend to be diplomatic. But the truth is, saying there's no ideal is like saying there are no rules. There's no manual. Remember that? That's not really true, because everything that succeeds in life has guiding principles. They have benchmarks, and those benchmarks exist so we know when we're falling short. Not to shame anyone, not to blame us, but to give us something to work toward. So let's be real. The ideal is a two-parent household. That's structure. And that structure is what creates stability. Does that mean single parents can't raise amazing kids? Absolutely not. Millions do every day, but it doesn't mean that that's the ideal. But it does mean there are challenges and there are new problems that come when the family structure breaks apart. So for example, studies show children from single parent households are about 3 times more likely to struggle with poverty and behavioral issues. That doesn't mean doom. It means we need awareness. Because here's the truth, every solution creates a new problem. If you left a toxic marriage, that may have saved your life, but it also created new gaps, new opportunity for growth, right? But gaps that needs to be filled. And one thing I've noticed, and another gentleman actually noticed that as well, he said it on the panel. He said single mothers often feel the need to overcompensate. I mentioned that earlier, right? And when we overcompensate, sometimes we unintentionally create new problems that are even bigger than the first. So the real question isn't, can a single mom raise a real man? The real question is, can a single mom train boys to become competent men? And of course, she can't. Maybe. The question is, How do we acknowledge the weakness in the structure of the fact that a family broke apart in the first place? Can we acknowledge that without making it a shaming thing? It's difficult. I have to acknowledge that it's difficult. But we have to actively continue to work to fill the gaps instead of pretending they don't exist. That's what we do in the corporate world. That's what we have to do within family structure, because denying the gaps doesn't make them go away. Awareness plus effort, half the battle won. Awareness alone is half the battle won. So let's stop treating every conversation about single parenthood as an attack. Believe it or not, there's a single father getting attacked, feeling attacked somewhere too. I know some of them, okay? Yes, there are toxic people who just want to shame, but there are also conversations meant to highlight reality so we can raise stronger kids and build stronger families. And let me end this with, marriage is not a scam. The toxic relationship you were in might have been a scam, but the institution itself is just an institution. Okay, you have to know how to do things right. And that's still the framework that works best when done right. Learn that, know that, and then know peace. Why did you remind MOP that it's time to go, Marriott? Because I said 1 hour. I said 1 hour. Marriott is my timekeeper, my honorable executive timekeeper. Thank you, Marriott. Thank you, Black Diamond. Thank you, everybody, for coming through. Hopefully you've been enlightened, educated. We'll see you on the next one. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Girl, it's your love that I've been missing. I miss all your hugs, your touching and kissing. Me love on the floor, the couch in the kitchen. One love enough, we done enough.